Hello everyone, how are you? This is Pom and welcome back to the channel Safety with Pom. So thank you for your time and thanks for your support. And before starting this video, just I would like to request you please subscribe the channel, like the video, and please do comment also and share the video also. Uh, and as you know that today video topic is about the ISO 20000-2018 Lead Auditor Training. So in this video, I will inform you about all the information and the like ISO 20000-2018 requirements that you have to follow as per the standards. So let's start this video about the ISO 20000-2018. So this standard is particularly about the food safety. If you are working in a food safety sector, whether you're in a manufacturing, hotel, catering, any hospitality sector, or anywhere where you are dealing with the health for the food safety. So in that sector, so this video is be very important for you. So let's start this video about the food safety, which is ISO 20000-2018 standards requirements for the lead auditor. So before starting this training, I just want to I'm just using the ISO 20000-2018 lead auditor standards, and I'm not using the directly from the what you call the document, which is from the ISO website because of the copyright and certain other issues. So that's why I'm using these document in different way. So ISO 20000-2018, it is a worldwide federation of national standards body, ISO. If you are not aware about the ISO, what is ISO will do, I have uploaded a ISO introduction video. In that one, you will get all the necessary information regarding the ISO, what the ISO do and how they will work. So, introduction, the first one is the general. The adoption of food safety management system is a strategic decision of an organization that can help to improve its overall performance in food safety. Okay, so food safety management system 2018, which is ISO 20000-2018. Why we need to adopt this one? Because if you will follow this ISO 20000-2018 food safety management system, particularly it will help your business to grow, to sustain, and you can improve the food safety also. So it will provide the ability to constantly provide safe foods and products and services that will meet the customer requirements, okay, and applicable legal requirements, statutory and regulatory requirements, and it will address the risk associated with its objectives. Then the ability to demonstrate conformity to specified food safety management system requirements. Okay, you might have the food safety management system, and there are some certain objectives and targets you have. So this food safety management system ISO 20000-2018 will help you to achieve those objectives and the targets as well. So as you know that all these ISO standard, they are working on the PDCA cycle: plan, do, check, and act. So all these clauses will come under that one. Okay. Then this process approach enables the organization to plan its process and their interactions. The PDCA cycle enables organization to ensure that its process are adequately resourced, okay, and managed, and that opportunities for improvements are determined and acted on. So PDCA cycle will be used in 7 main clauses, clause number 4 to clause number 10. So plan, do, check, and act, all these 4 cycles will be used in that one. Okay. So in this document, you will find these following terms which has been used, and these terms you can use in your documentation as well if you are preparing a manual, food safety manual for your organization. So these terms also you can use. So wherever you will get the word shall, it said that it indicates it is a requirement, means you must have to follow this one. Okay. Wherever you will get the should requirement, it indicates a recommendation. It is not saying it is you have to must do it, but it is giving a recommendation that you may do it. Okay, but shall, you must do it. Okay, may indicate a permission. Wherever the word is there, you will get the permission. Okay, can indicates a possibility or capability. So wherever the word can is there, so it will tell you the possibility or the capability of organization to do certain things. So these are the following terms will be there in as per ISO standard 22000-2018, and these following four terms also you can use in your documentation, which will indicate the these words meaning. So food safety 0.2 food safety management system principles. Okay. So food safety is related to the presence of food safety hazards. Okay. At the time of consumption, intake by the consumer, food safety hazard can occur at any stages of the food chain, whether you are purchasing the food, okay, from the supplier. At that time also the hazard can be introduced in the food also. Okay, let's say that you have purchased the food and you are transporting that food. During the transportation, what will happen? Maybe the food and the chemical is transported together in your premises, so the chemical hazard can be introduced in the food. So anywhere in the food chain, the hazards can be introduced on the food. So that's why we need to implement adequate control measures throughout the food chain is essential. Food safety is ensured through the combined efforts of all parties in the food chain. Okay, so food chain, there are different parties who will work, and their collaboration is very important to keep the food safe. Interactive communication is very important to maintain the food safety management system. System management is required, and prerequisite program. So what is the prerequisite program? I have already uploaded the video about the PRP, CCP, and the OPRP. You can go to my channel, and there is a channel list called the food safety. In that one, you will get the related information about the prerequisite, how you can identify. Then we have the hazard analysis and critical control point, which is a hazard principle. Sorry. In addition, this document is based on the principles that are common to ISO management system standards. The management principles are customer focus, leadership, engagement of people, process approach, improvement, and evidence-based decision making. So all these things is required for the food safety management system principle. The organizational planning and control. So as you know that all these 10 clauses will work under the plan, do, check, and act. So PDCA cycle. Under the planning section, you have the clause number 4, context of the organization, clause number 5, leadership, clause number 6, planning, and clause number 7. After then, you have the do. So the operation, whatever the clause number 8 will come under the operation will go do. Then check clause number 9, and you have to do the performance evaluation. How you will do performance evaluation? So clause number 9, it's talk about the audit. Okay, so that one. Once you do the audit, you have to act on that one, corrective action. So that will come under clause number 10, improvements. So now you can see here the clause number 4 till 7 will come under the PDCA cycle, plan, do, check, and act. Okay. So under the operational, you can see here operational planning and control. Here the PRPs, traceability system, emergency preparedness and response, that will come. So what these will do? These will do the hazard analysis. Okay, whatever the hazard will be there in these systems, they will analyze the hazard. Then validation of control measures. The control measures, whatever you have implemented, that need to be validated. How you going to validate the control measure? Let's say that you have the control measure like controlling of the bacteria, like what you call this sanitization program. So one of the control measure is the sanitization program. So how you will make sure that the sanitization program is effective, and how you gonna make it validate? So what you have to do is sanitization program. Let's say that you are sanitizing your product like cutting board or chopping boards that you are sanitizing after the use. So what you have to do is to make sure it is effective program. You have to do the lab testing. Okay, external third party lab testing that you can do, and they will come, they will do the what you call checking, and after testing they will do. Once the testing is done, if it is report is satisfied, then your sanitization program is effective, and in that way you will validate your program. Okay, so each and everything need to be validated. So if you will not validate your hazard control program, then it is no use. Okay, so once you validate the hazard control program, the control measures, then hazard control plan will come. HACCP and OPRP plan. Then HACCP and OPRP plan verification need to done. So these plan also need to be verified. How you will verify? Implementation of the plan like the food safety, then control monitoring and measuring. Whatever the control you have put it, that you need to monitor and need to measure. Let's say that you have the control of the temperature, CCP. So how you will monitor that? By using the thermometer. How you will measure? By the temperature. Okay. Control of products and process non-conformities like the NCRs, that will done. Then verification activities for these things. Then analysis of results of verification activities. Whatever verification you have done, you have to analyze the results of the verification activities. After then, you have to updating preliminary information document specifies PRPs and hazard control plan that you have to act. Okay. Then again, it will start the cycle. Okay. So this is the ongoing cycle. It will not stop anywhere. So that this is the plan. Okay. Planning section, operation will come in this one. Then do what you have to do. You have to do the operation section also, that will come. Check, it will come. Okay. Food safety management system clause number 9. Then act clause number 10. So in this way, PDCA cycle will work. So then we have the scope 1, clause number 1, which is under the scope. So this documents specify requirements of food safety management system to enable an organization that is directly, indirectly involved in the food chain. So how you will comply with this clause requirement? So in this clause requirement, clause number 1, scope, you have to define the scope of your business. What is the scope of your business? Like the manufacturing of the packed water bottle, or manufacturing of the milk, powder milk or the liquid milk, and supplying. So that scope you have to identify, and that scope you have to put it in your what you call this food safety manual. So there you have to put it. Okay. So in that way you have to put it. To plan, implement, operate, maintain, and update a food safety management system, providing products and services that are safe in accordance with their intended use. So in this way you have to put the scope. Then the clause number two, it talks about the reference. So reference, there is nothing, but while you are preparing the manual for the food safety management system, if you are using any reference, so clause number 2, you can mention the references that you are using. Maybe the legal requirement reference, maybe the local body reference, maybe the ISO standard reference that you use to create the manual. So that reference you can put. So clause number 3, it's talk about the terms and definition. So acceptable level 3.1. Now what is the acceptable level? Level of food safety hazard not to exceed in the end product and provide by the organization. So what is the acceptable level? So acceptable level should always will be in the number. So let's say that my CCP is the cooking. So CCP cooking, my acceptable level for the temperature is 75 degrees Celsius. I have to cook the food. So 75 degrees Celsius is the acceptable level. If I cook the food below 75, then that is not accepted. Okay. So acceptable level is the certain set temperature or certain criteria that you are setting. That's called the acceptable level. Then action criteria. So if this acceptable level is not achieved, what action you will take? So that action is called the action criteria. Measurable or observable specification for the monitoring of an OPRP. Okay. So anything if you are measuring or any specific is there for an OPRP, if it is not achieved, what action you will take? That will be used as an action criteria. So it's saying note to entry, an action criteria is established to determine whether an OPRP remains in control and distinguishes between what is acceptable criteria met or achieved, means the OPRP is operating as intended, and unacceptable. Okay. So whatever the OPRPs you will identify in your organization, in your process, those OPRPs should remain the effective. And if those are not remain effective, what is the action criteria you will take? Okay. So that you have to identify. Then we have the audit. Audit, as you know, it is a systematic, independent, documented process for obtaining audit evidence and evaluating it objectivity. Then competence, ability to apply knowledge and skills to achieve intended result. Competence of the person, that we check through the knowledge, experience, and trainings, and the education qualification. Conformity, it is the requirement that product is conformed with any certain requirement or not. Then the contamination, if the product is contaminated by the four hazards, we are calling it ABC, allergenic, biological, chemical, and physical. If the product is contaminated any one of these hazards, that's called the contamination. Continual improvement, as you know, PDCA Act. After then, it is a continual improvement, recurring activity to enhance performance. Control measures, action or activity that you require to control the food safety hazard to reduce it to an acceptable level, that called the control measure. Now the correction, action to eliminate a detected non-conformity, that's called the correction. If you detect any non-conformity, what are the action you will take to correct that one, that's called the correction. Corrective action, action to eliminate the cause of non-conformity. What are the action and to prevent reoccurrence? So, what are the actions you are taking to correct the non-conformity and avoiding that to reoccurrence? So, that will call as a corrective action. Critical control point. Now, the people so many times we are asking what is CCP. So, they just simply say critical control point. But what is the critical control point? So, it is a step in a process at which control measures is or are applied to prevent to or reduce it to an acceptable level and define critical limits, and measurement enable the application of correction. So simply you can say CCP is a critical control point. It is a process. Okay, it is a step in the process where control measure is very necessary. If you will not put the control measure at the step and the product release, that product might cause the contamination or food poisoning, and it is a critical limit. Okay, so critical limit by the numbering that you will control the product. So that is a critical control point. Now the critical limit always should be measurable. So whenever you are setting any critical limit for any CCP, so always put in a number. So number that you can measure in value, which separate the acceptability and from unacceptability. As I told you, 75 degrees Celsius is the cooking temperature, so it is the acceptable level, and 74 degrees Celsius it is unacceptable. Okay, so critical limit, it is the line between the acceptable to the unacceptable. So that is the one. So it will segregate. Documented information, whatever the documents you are maintaining, that will call as a documented information, like the SOPs, your policies, whatever the documents you are maintaining as a physical form, okay, or it is in a writing, physical form or the soft copy. So whatever it is in the writing, that's called the documented information. Effectiveness, whatever the process or the control measures you have implemented, to, whether they are effective or not to control the hazards, that's called the effectiveness. End product that will undergo no further processing or transformation by the organization. End product is the product that is ready to eat. Feed, single or multiple products, whether the processed, semi-processed or raw, which are intended to be feed to food producing animals. So that is for the food producing animal. So that's all under the clause number 3. Okay, these are the sub clauses. Not the main clauses. So the main clauses are starting from the clause number 4 to clause number 10. So let's start the main clauses. So our main clauses start now. The clause number 4, which is the context of the organization. So under the context of the organization, the fourth 4.1, it's called the understanding the organization and its context. So it's saying that the organization shall determine external, internal issues that are relevant to its purpose and that affects its ability to achieve the intended results of its food safety management system. So what the clause asking you to do? So clause saying that you have, as a food safety management system or system you are maintaining, or as a food safety professional, you have to identify the internal and external issues. So, okay, that is affecting the food safety management system. So what is the internal issues that will affect the food safety management system? PRPs. Under the PRPs, it is the like the pest management system, facilities. Okay, then you have the people inside, the people competency. Okay, the different culture they are coming from. So each and every country has a different culture and the different norms for the food safety management system, hygiene perspectives. So all these things you have to identify in internal issues. Then the external issues. What are the external issues that will affect your food safety management system? External issues could be the legal requirements. Now the legal requirement government body, they will say that each and every food organization, they have to implement the food safety management system or the HACCP system. So that is one of the requirement that is affecting your food safety management system. So likewise, you have to identify the internal and external issues that is affecting or that's which is going to affect your food safety management system. So it's saying that the organization shall identify. So it is the requirement must. Okay, you have to identify, review, and update information related to these internal and external issues. Once you will identify, you have to review, you have to update on timely basis these internal and external issues. So note 1 is saying that issues can include positive or negative factors or conditions for consideration. Okay, so the issues could be the positive or it could be the negative also. Note 2, it's saying that understanding the context can be facilitated by considering external and internal issues, as I told you that, including but not to limited to legal, okay, internal, external, technology, IT thing, competitive, market, culture, social, economic, environments, food fraud, food defense, okay, contamination, knowledge, and performance of the organizations, whether international or national or regional or local laws. So, all these things you have to consider whenever you are identifying internal and external issues for the clause number 1, understanding the organization and context. Now, the clause number 4.2 is saying that understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties. So once you identify internal external issues, you have to identify the needs and expectations of interested parties. So it's saying that to ensure that the organization has the ability to consistently provide products and service that meet applicable statutory, regulatory, customer requirements with regard to food safety, the organization shall determine. So it is the requirement. Okay, the interested parties that are relevant to food safety management system. So you have to identify the interested parties that are related to your food safety management system. So in the same way, you can identify the external interested parties and the internal interested parties. So who's your internal interested parties? It could be your employees. Okay, so you have to identify in that way. Interested parties could be the employee, and after then your board members, okay, senior managers also. Then your external could be your customer, your suppliers, your legal bodies, your certification bodies. So in that way, you have to identify the interested parties. After that, relevant requirements of the interested parties. Once you identify their interest parties, now you have to make a format, and in that format you have to show that who are the interested parties and what is their requirement, what they want from you, okay, in relevant to the food safety management system. Like say that customer is one of your interested parties. Now customer, what is their requirement? Customer required the safe food from you which is safe to consume and will not cause any harm after consumption of that product. So that is the requirement of the customer. So likewise, you have to identify the requirements of other interested parties. So it is also a requirement that shall identify, review, and update all this information on timely basis. Then determine the scope of the food safety management system. So you have to identify the scope of the food safety management system. So it is your organization. It's depend on your organization. The organization shall determine the boundaries, okay, and applicability of the food safety management system established to its scope. Now, what is the boundary of the food safety management system in your organization? So, could be the boundary. It could be the ABC company will produce the pack liquid and powder milk and supply the powder milk. So that is the scope of your business. Only the one line sentence that you have to identify and you have to put it in the food safety manual. The scope shall specify the products and services, process and production site that are included in the food safety management system. So when you are putting the scope, do not forget to put the physical address of your organization in the food safety manual. The scope shall include the activities, okay, it will include the activity, process, product, services that can have an influence on the food safety of its end products. So that is the requirement for the scope. So whenever you are determining the scope, the organization they need to consider 4.1 clause internal and external issues and the requirements referred to in 4.2 interested parties requirements. Okay. The scope shall be available and maintained as documented information. So it should be maintained as a documented information. The scope you can maintain as a documented information in the food safety manual. Then we have the clause number 4.4 food safety management system. So the food safety management system is saying that the organization shall establish, implement and maintain updated and continuously improve as a food safety management system. So food safety management system, how you will comply with this clause? Simply you just have to maintain a manual, food safety management system manual that you have to maintain. Okay, in that food safety manual, all these requirements, clause number 4 to 10, that you have to maintain. So that was the clause number 4. We done. Now let's start the clause number 5, which is the leadership. So the leadership under the clause number 5.1, it's talk about the leadership and commitment. So the top management shall demonstrate leadership and commitment with respect to food safety management system. So as you know that if any business need to be success, or so the commitment should always come from the top management. Okay. So when the commitment will come from the top management, automatically the downgraded staff they will start to follow that thing. So it should come from the top. So it's saying that clause that ensuring that the food safety policy and the objectives of the food safety management system are established and are compatible with the strategic direction of the organization. So it is the leadership requirement that they set the policy, okay, and it should align with the company goal. So it's saying that then ensuring the integration of food safety management system requirements into the organization business process. So food safety management system related requirement can be integrated in the organization business process. Ensuring that the resource needed for the food safety management systems are available. It is the top management requirement that, and it should be their commitment to provide the resources. Okay. Communicating the importance of effective food safety management system. So it is the top management system requirement that they should communicate the effectiveness and the requirements of the food safety management system. So applicable statutory or regulatory requirement and mutually agreed customer requirements also. So it is the top management requirement to communicating these requirements. So it is the top management requirement that ensuring that food safety management system is evaluated and maintained. It is their responsibility to make sure that food safety management system is evaluated and maintained and achieve its intended results. And it is their responsibility to direct and support persons to contributing to the effectiveness of the food safety management system and promoting a continual improvement and supporting other relevant management roles to demonstrate their leadership as it applies to their areas of responsibility. So it is the top management responsibility to make sure these things are following. So reference to businesses in this document can be interpreted broadly mean to those activities that are core to the purpose of the organization existence. So this is the note. After the leadership and commitment, then we have the policy. So leadership team is the responsible to make sure that policy is implemented and establish the food safety policy. It is their responsibility. So top management shall establish, implement and maintain a food safety policy that is appropriate to the purpose and the context of the organization. So whenever you are preparing any food safety policy, always take care of the clause number 4, context of the organization. Then it is the top management responsibility that provides a framework for setting and reviewing the objectives of the food safety management system. So whenever you are preparing any food safety policy, you can include your food safety management system related requirements or objectives in the policy. And it should include the commitment. Okay, food safety policy should provide a commitment to satisfy applicable food safety requirements, including statutory, regulatory requirements, and mutually agreed customer requirements also. So this thing, commitment should be there in the policy. Address internal and external issues should be there also in the food safety management system policy. Then includes a commitment to continual improvement in the policy. Then address to the need, ensure competencies related to food safety. Okay. So if you are preparing any food safety policy, make sure these things are included in the food safety policy. Do not just copy and paste any policy from the Google or anywhere. So create your own policy which is aligned with your company goal, your value and the vision. Company goal, value and vision should be uh, represent or should be reflect in the policy. Now, once you establish the policy, policy should need to be communicated. Clause number 5.2.2. It is the requirement of that. The food safety policy, it shall. So it is the requirement. Must. No, it is not like that you can do or you don't have the choice to do it or not. So you must have to do it. So food safety policy should be available. Okay, if any person want food safety policy, it should be available. It should be maintained as documented information. Then it should be communicated, understood, applied at all levels within the organization. So food safety policy should be communicated to each and everyone within the organization, and it should be available to relevant interested parties as appropriate. Then, food safety policy should be communicated to the interested parties, internal and external. Your supplier, your customer, your contractors, all the people should be communicated to this policy. So that was about the policy. Now, let's move to the clause number 5.3, organizational roles, responsibilities, and authorities. So it is a requirement that top management shall ensure that the responsibilities and authorities for relevant roles are assigned, communicate, and understood within the organization. So whenever you are assigning any roles, responsibilities, and authorities to the people, to the staff, so always make sure that they have the authority and the responsibility to ensuring that the food safety management system conforms to the requirements of its document, reporting to the food safety management related issues to the top management, and appointing the food safety team and the food safety team leader. It is the requirement, and designating persons with defined responsibilities and authorities. So how you can achieve these things? So simply these things you can achieve by creating the JD for each and every person. Okay. So whenever you will create the job description, make sure all these things are included in their JD related to the responsibilities and authority. So they should be given the authority to report any food safety management system related hazards, and any unsafe work also they have the authority to stop. So these authorities should be provided to each and every staff regardless the position. Next, 5.3.2, food safety team leader shall be responsible for, if you are appointing any person a food safety team leader, make sure they have a separate job description for as a food safety team leader. They might have a separate what you call JD for as a supervisor or as a manager, but there should be a separate roles and responsibility as a food safety team leader. So whenever you are preparing any job description or any roles and responsibility for the food safety team leader, do not forget to include these things. Okay, so they should be responsible to ensuring the food safety management system is established, implemented, maintained, and updated. It is their responsibility. Managing and organizing the work of the food safety team, they have to manage and they have to organize. Ensuring relevant training and competencies for the food safety team, it is the requirement responsibility of the food safety team leader. Reporting to top management on the effectiveness of the food safety management system. So these are the core requirements or the responsibilities of the food safety team leader that you have to include there in responsibility. All persons shall have the responsibility to report problems with regards to food safety management system. So that was the clause number 5. I hope that was clear. If not, please do comments in the comment section and I will answer your question. Now let's move to the clause number 6, which is the planning. So under the planning, we have the clause number 6.1, which is action to address risk and opportunities. So whenever you are addressing the risk and opportunities, these risk and opportunities are related to the food safety. Okay, not the health and safety related. These are the food safety related risk and opportunities. So when planning the food safety management system, the organization shall consider. So whenever you are planning the food safety management system, you have to consider clause number 4.1, context of the organization, interested parties, okay, and the internal and external issues. All these three things you have to consider. And you have to determine the risk and opportunities that need to be addressed to. Okay. give assurance to the food safety management system can achieve its intended result, enhance desirable effects, prevent or reduce undesired effects, and achieve continual improvement. So these things you have to consider whenever you are what you call identifying risk and opportunities related to the food safety. Then the organization 6.1.2 it tells that the organization shall plan. You have to plan as the organization that action to address risk and opportunities, how you will integrate and implement the actions into food safety management system process, and evaluate the effectiveness of these actions. So once you identify the action, how you gonna evaluate the effectiveness of these control measures, the actions that you are using to control the food safety hazards, the effectiveness, how you will check. So that you have to identify all these requirements which I am telling you here. Okay, I'm just giving you the training related to the ISO 20000 2018 requirements. Later on, when I will update, post more videos related to the food safety, each and everything I will let you know that how you gonna achieve these things. Okay, so it will be very easy for you to follow the food safety management system. Okay, and you will achieve your targets and objectives. Then we have what's called this. The actions taken by the organization to address risk and opportunity shall, okay, it is the requirement, appropriate to the impact on food safety requirements, conformity of food products and services to customers, requirements of interested parties and food chain. So whenever you are taking any action to address the risk and opportunities, these three things need to be considered. So whenever you are any action you are taking to address the risk and opportunities, that could be include like avoiding the risk, taking risk in order to pursue an opportunity, or you can eliminate the risk sources, changing the likelihood of or consequences, sharing the risk, or accepting the presence of risk by informed decision. So it's like the what you call risk management. Okay, then the opportunity can lead to adoption of new practices. So whenever there is any opportunity that could like under the risk, could be the opportunity also. Okay, that opportunity as a food safety team leader you have to identify. Okay, using new technology or other desirable or viable possibilities to address the food safety needs of the organization or its customer. Okay, so whenever there is a risk, there is a possibility to improve the product also, get the new technology, new ideas. So that could be there also. So as a food safety team leader, you have to identify those opportunities. Then clause number 6.2, objectives of food safety management system and planning to achieve them. So clause number 6.2 it says that you have to establish the objectives for the food safety management system. Okay, so whenever you are establishing the objective for the KPI or objective and targets food safety management system, it should be relevant to the food safety management system, and it will be shall it should be consistent with the food safety policy. Okay, check your policy whether there you have include some objective also. It should be applicable, sorry, measurable. So as we know that whenever we are setting any objective, it should be smart. Okay, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time scale, and take into account applicable food safety requirements. Okay, including statutory, regulatory, and customer requirements that you can check. It should be monitored and verified. Okay, whenever you are setting any objective, that should be monitored and verified. Monitor, how you can monitor? You can set the what you call mm, uh, frequency of reviewing this KPIs or targets like quarterly, 6 months, or annually. It's depend on you, and it should be communicated also. So it is the requirement. Objective and target should be communicated, and it should be maintained and updated as appropriate. So this is the requirements for the objectives and targets. Next, when you are preparing, when you are creating the objectives and targets, you have to make a plan also. How you gonna achieve these objectives and targets? Okay, to achieve that target, what you will do? Okay, and what resources you need to achieve that target? Who is responsible for that one? When it will be completed? Okay, and how the results will be evaluated? How will you check the results? So let's give you an example that Your one of the target is to train 100% staff internally for the food safety training level 1. Okay, so what will be done? What you going to do? Your target is 100% to train all the staff. So training session need to be need to what you call training session need to provided, okay, to all the staff. What is resources you need? You need the time, you need the staff, you need the training room, you need the training material. These are your resources. Who will be the responsible? Who's gonna do this training? Food safety team leader or food safety officer, food safety manager? Who is the responsible for this thing? When it will be completed? Maybe end of the year, maybe after 3 months, maybe after 6 months. So that you have to maintain. And how the results will be evaluated? How are you going to check the results? So that also you have to put here. So likewise, all these things you have to check and you have to put as a planning. For this thing also, I will also make a video. So in that one, you will get a clear idea. Now, planning of changes. So when organization determine the needs for the changes of food safety management system, it is include the personal changes, and the changes shall be carried out and communicated and plan manner. So planning of changes. If there is any changes in food safety management system related to the person, related to the process, related to the equipment or any machinery facility, all these things should be done in a planned manner to make sure that there should not be any hazard or risk introduced to the food safety in the food. So whenever you are doing this thing, you have to consider that the purpose of the changes and their potential consequences. What consequences can come because of that changes. It should be continued integrity of the food safety management system. Food safety management system integrity should not be compromised. Availability of resources. To do that changes effectively, the resources are available or not. The allocation of or reallocation of responsibilities and authorities. Once the changes will happen, who is responsible, whether it is allocate or relocate of the responsibility or not, that you have to check. That is the requirement for the clause number 6 on that one. Now let's move to the clause number 7 about the support. So to achieve the food safety management system related objectives and targets and to maintain the standard, you need some support. Under the support, we have the resources. So you need the different kind of resources to maintain the ISO 20000 standards. So you have to get the resources. So resources, we have the people. So you need the people who is competent to maintain the food safety management system and to produce a safe food. So whenever you are taking the people, you have to always communicate with the HR and you have to make sure that the people are competent. Then the infrastructure. Infrastructure is very important to maintain the food safety management system. So whenever you are taking care of the infrastructure, you have to make sure that if you are setting a new premises or new facility, you have to make sure that that is away from any hazard, any storm, any what you call sea area, and other thing also you have to consider that if bad thing happen, if any rain happen, flood happen, whether that rain or flood can impact your food's business or not. So that thing also you have to consider under the infrastructure. So the organization shall provide the resources for the determination, establishment, and maintenance of the infrastructure necessary to achieve conformity with the requirement of the food safety management system. So land, vessels, buildings, and associated utilities that you have to check, and equipment including hardware, software, transportation, all these things will come under the infrastructure. Then the work environment. The work environment shall determine, provide, and maintain the resources to establishment, management, and maintenance of the work environment necessary to achieve conformity with the food safety management system. So work environment, these three things will come: social, okay, non-discriminatory, calm, non-conformantal, okay, there should not be any fighting between the staff. So social, under like the people are coming from the different countries, and in one under one roof, people are working from the different countries, so these things can happen. So that how you gonna control it, so that you have to take care. Then the psychological, example, stress, burnout prevention, emotional protective. So all these things you have to consider in the work environment. Then we have the physical temperature, heat, humidity, light, air flow, hygiene, and noise inside the facility. And if you are doing, if anything is like the temperature is very high inside the hot kitchen, so what will happen? The staff, they won't feel safe, or they won't feel comfort to work in that environment, and they will do the work in a hurry. Okay, then some steps might be missed in the food safety, and that can result in the food poisoning also. Okay, and the food hazards can be introduced in the food. Then we have the 7.1.5 externally developed elements for the food safety management system. So when an organization establish, maintain, updates the continually improve food safety management system by using externally developed elements of the food safety management system, including PRPs, the hazard analysis and hazard control plan, the organization shall ensure that provided elements are developed in conformance with the requirements of this document, applicable to the sites, process, and products of the organization, specifically and adapted to process and products and the organization by the food safety team, implemented, maintained, and updated as required by this document, and retained as documented information. So, externally developed elements of the food safety management system. So, if you are using anything which is externally developed for the food safety management system, so you have to consider these things. Okay. Then control of externally provides process, product, and services. If you are getting any product, process, or services that you are including in your food, let's say that you are preparing one of the food like called some sandwiches. Let's say the chicken sandwiches you are preparing. So prepare the chicken sandwich. You are getting the chicken, cooked chicken from one of the from the external parties. Now you have to make sure that how you gonna control that chicken from the which you are getting from the external parties. So these are the product, processes, and services that you have to put the control. So you have to create a SOP. In that SOP, you have to define that how you're gonna control it, how you're gonna select the supplier, how you gonna evaluate them, how you going to do the audit them. So all these things should be there related to the controlling of external provided processes and services. So it is the requirement. Okay, shall establish and apply criteria for evaluation, selection, monitoring, performance, and re-evaluation. Okay, and ensure adequate communication also. How are you going to communicate of the requirements to the external parties? And it need to ensure that external provided the process and product and services do not adversely affect your food safety management system. So that also you have to take care. Then retain documented information. All these things, as I told you, that just prepare a SOP. So that SOP will remain as a documented information. Okay. So uh, so it will comply with this clause requirement. Then the 7.2 competence of the staff. So it is a requirement also. The organization shall determine the necessary competence of person, including external providers doing work under its control that affect the food safety performance and effectiveness of the food safety management system. If you are hiring any external worker, then you have to check their competencies also, and you have to make sure that they are competent to fulfill your food safety management system related requirements. Then you have to ensure that these persons, including the food safety team or whoever is responsible for the operation of the hazard control plan, are competent on the basis of appropriate education, training, or the experience. So that you have to check. Then you have to ensure that food safety team has a combination. So uh, whenever you are preparing a food safety team, so you have to take the food safety team from the different departments. You have to get it from the HR, you have to get it from the finance, you have to get it from the operation, you have to get it from the food safety members, you have to get it from the cleaner facility. Why you need to do that? Because the one person will not hold all the informations and the knowledge. So that's why you have to get the information from the all different departments, and one person is not allowed to provide the authority or the resources. So that's why you have to include the different people, because they should be aware about the requirements, why it is necessary. So the finance also should be included, because the finance person will approve your budget. Okay, HR should be there. HR will give you the competent people, so they should be aware about the requirement of these things. So whenever you are preparing a food safety team, establishing. So, where applicable, take action to acquire the necessary competence, evaluate the effectiveness of the actions taken. and retain as a documented information. So it should be retained as a documented information. So I would suggest you to use this in a manual, food safety manual. Now 7.3 clause awareness. So it is the requirements also. Organization shall ensure that all relevant persons doing work under the organization control shall be aware of the policy. So you have to communicate the policy, objective of the food safety management system, their individual contribution to the effectiveness of the food safety management system, and the implementation of non-conformity with food safety management system. So these things you can include under the SOP of the communication. Okay, in that communication, what you will communicate, that you can include this one. So the next is clause number 7.4. It's called the communication. So the communication, it's always I would suggest you to create a SOP. So in that SOP name, it would be the communication. So under the communication, you can put the internal and the external communication. Internal communication or external communication relevant to the food safety management system. So in this communication SOP, okay, you have to include that what will be communicated. Okay, you will communicate policy, you will communicate food safety related objectives and targets, you will communicate the legal requirements, you will communicate some new changes or anything. Okay, when to communicate, what is the frequency, every month, 3 month, that frequency you have to include in the SOP. Then with whom to communicate, staff, internal, external parties, interested parties. How will communicate, email, TVT, notice board. Okay, and who communicate, food safety team leader, food safety officer, food safety manager. So all these things you have to include in this SOP. Okay, so in that way you have to maintain this clause number 7.4 communication. So 7.4.2, the external communication requirement, it says that organization shall ensure that sufficient information is communicated to external parties and is available interested parties in the food chain. So external providers like your contractors, customers, and consumer relation to product information and all these things that you have to inform them. Identify food safety hazards and the need to control by the organizations in the food chain, contractual arrangements, inquiries, orders, customers and consumer feedback, including complaints. All these things you have to communicate. Then statutory and legal requirements, other organizations that have an impact on or will be affected by the effectiveness or updating of the food safety management system. So these things we have to communicate them. So under the internal communication, you have to communicate internally product or new products, raw material and services, production systems and equipment, production premises, locations or equipment or surrounding environment, cleaning and sanitization programs, packaging, storage, distribution system, competencies and or allocation of responsibilities and authorities, applicable statutory and legal requirement, knowledge regarding the food safety hazards and the control measures, customer sectors, and other requirements that organizations observe. Then the relevant inquiries and communication from external interested parties that you have to inform, and the complaints, alerts related to the alerts indicating food safety hazard associated with the end products. So all these things are minimum requirements that you have to communicate to your internal staff. Okay, so when you are preparing the communication SOP, so just include these things on this one, minimum requirements. Okay, then clause number 7.5, it's talk about the documented information. So I would suggest you to create a SOP also for the documentation related SOP. So in this one, it is the requirement that for the food safety management system, documented information required by this document, documented information determined by the organization as being necessary for the effectiveness of the food safety management system. So you have to maintain the documented information when you are preparing the documented information which is required by the different clauses. So you have to make sure that you are following all these requirements. Okay, so whenever you are creating or updating any documents, these are the things you have to take care and you have to consider. So whenever you are creating or updating any documentation, there should be identification and the description of the document. Okay, let's say that you are creating the SOP, okay, for the communication. So the document name, identification, how you are identifying it is the communication of SOP. Description of the documents is there. The title of the document, SOP, communication SOP, date, when it was issued, like 22 April 2022. Who is the author? Author is ABC, food safety team leader. reference number. What is the reference number? Reference number ABC FSMS. So in that way you have to put. Then the format. What is the format that you are using to create a document in your like SOP, manual formats, or work instruction? What are those? The language you will use, what kind of language you're going to use it, whether it is Arabic, whether it is Spanish, French, English, or Hindi, what kind of language you're going to use, what is the version, graphics, or the media you're going to use. So these information should include in your documentation SOP. And the same thing you have to follow each and every document that you are creating. Then review and approval of suitability and adequacy. Who is going to review that document, who is going to approve that document, whether it is suitable or not, or adequate or not. So that also you have to include in the SOP. Control of documented information. So documented information also need to be controlled, and it should be available and suitable for use where and when it is needed, and it is adequately protected, and it's need to be protected from the updating. So sometimes what people will do, they just start to update this document by themselves. Sometimes they change the document on document date, okay, release date, and certain other things are changing by the staff. So how you going to control that one? That also you have to include in the SOP. 7.5.3.2, it's saying that for the control of documented information, the organization shall address the following activities. So whenever you are controlling the documents, these things you have to check. Distribution, whom you're going to distribute. Access, who has the access, retrieval and use. Storage and preservation, including preservation of disability. Control of changes, how you're going to control the changes, that anyone will not change the document. How you're going to retain the document, and how you're going to dispose the document. So the retention, you have to describe the retention period, okay, how long you're going to hold that particular documents or the records, training records, how long you will hold it, health record, how long you're going to hold it. So documented information of external origin determined by the organization to be necessary for the planning and operation of the food safety management system shall be identified, okay, and as appropriate and controlled. So not only the internal documents, you have to identify the external documents also, okay, and it is the requirements. Like the external document, what kind of external documents you are going to use? One of the external document is the ISO standards. Second, the certificates, training certificates provided by third party. Third, it is the legal requirements, law, code of practices. So those are your external documents, and how you're going to control it, that also you have to define in your SOP. So that was the clause number 7. Now let's start the clause number 8, which is operation. So operational planning and control. So the organization shall plan, it is the requirement, implement, control, maintain, and update the process needed to meet the organizations for the realization of safe products, and implement actions to determine. Okay, so you have to create a operational planning and control. So hazard analysis and critical control point, hazard one, okay, and how you going to control the hazard related to the process. All these things you have to check, and you have to create a plan. As a plan you have to prepare. So establishing criteria for the processes, then implementing control and processes accordance with the criteria, and keeping documented information. So as a plan or food safety plan, you have to keep as a documented information. So it's saying that the organization shall control plan changes and review the consequences of unintended changes. So if there is any changes, planning of changes, how you going to control them, that also you have to take care. Now 8.2 it's talk about the prerequisite program. As I told you that I have already prepared a training video on the PRPs, what are the different kinds of PRPs, and how you gonna achieve how you gonna identify them, how you gonna control them. So for that one, you just go to my channel, and there is a PRP or PRP or CCP related video is there, so you can have a look on that video. So it's saying that related to the PRP, that the organization shall establish, implement, maintain the updated PRPs to facilitate the prevention or reduction of contamination. Okay, food safety related hazards need to be controlled by using the PRPs. So whenever you are deciding the PRPs, you have to make sure that the appropriate to the organization its context with regard to food safety. You have to identify appropriate to the size and type of the operation and the nature of the products being manufactured, and it should be implemented across the entire production system, not only in one area, and either as program applicable in general or program applicable, and it should be approved by food safety team. It is not like that some of the person will identify the PRP and you implement. No, it should be approved by the food safety team members. When selecting or establishing PRPs, the organization shall ensure that applicable statutory, regulatory, and mutually agreed customer requirements are identified. The organization should consider the applicable parts of the ISO TS 20002 series, applicable standards, codes of practice, or guidelines that you have to check. Okay. Now, whenever you are selecting the PRPs, at least consider these things. Okay. Shall consider these things. So, whenever you are identifying the PRP, construction of the building, layout of the buildings and associated utilities. Okay. Layout of premises, including zoning, workspace, employees' facilities, supplies of air, water, energy, and other utilities. These will come under the PRPs. All of these. Pest control, waste and sewage disposable and supporting services. This is also the PRP, the suitability of equipment and its accessibility for cleaning and maintenance. Okay, PRP. Supplier approval and assurance process, PRP. Reception of incoming material, storage, dispatch, transportation, handling of product, PRP. Measures for the prevention of cross contamination, PRP. Cleaning and disinfecting, PRP. Personal hygiene, PRP. Product information, consumer awareness, PRP. Other as appropriate. So these are the things we'll consider as a PRP. So all these things you can include in PRP. Now after that we have the traceability system. So traceability is very very important in the food safety management system. So it is one of the tools that we use if any product goes wrong, that we have to trace that product and we have to recall that product. So traceability system shall be able to uniquely identify incoming material from the suppliers and first stage of distribution route of the end product. When establishing the implementing the traceability system, the following shall be considered. So if you are implementing any traceability system, so you have to make sure that relation of lots of received material, ingredients and intermediate products and the end products, reworking of material or product, distribution of end product. What is the reworking of materials or products? Now the reworking, like let's say that you cook the chicken gravy, and the chicken gravy you use for something else. So that's called the reworking. Means you use the one product to the another, create the another product. The organization shall ensure that applicable statutory, legal and customer requirements are identified under the traceability. So documented information is required for this thing. Okay, evidence of traceability. So traceability is a system where you will trace a product from the end product, from end to the starting. You will go back. Okay, go back like dispatch to the product till receiving of the product or the supplier of the product. From the till there you will trace the product. Now, the emergency preparedness and response. So, it is a requirement that you have to identify the food safety related emergencies, and you have to create a preparedness and response plan. Potential emergencies that is related to the situations. Okay, handling emergencies and incidents. The organization shall respond to actual emergency situation incidents by ensuring applicable statutory and legal requirement need to identify communication internal. Okay, how you're going to handle the emergency and communicating external also to the supplier. You have to take action to reduce the consequences of the emergency situation appropriate to the magnitude of the emergency. Periodically, you have to test procedures where practical, okay, like a drill, fire safety drill that you have to conduct, review and where necessary update the documented information after the occurrence of any incident, emergency situations or test. If you are doing any test, any drill, you have to maintain as a documented information. Then the hazard control. It is a requirement of this standard that hazard need to be controlled. Preliminary steps to enable hazard analysis. So first, what you need to do, you have to analyze the hazard. It's like the risk assessment for the food safety. To carry out the hazard analysis, preliminary documented information shall be collected. So documented information should be there. Maintain by the food safety team. It is the food safety team requirement, and it should include the applicable legal requirement, customer requirements, organization products, process and equipment, and food safety hazard relevant to the food safety management system. So whenever you are analysis the hazard here, so you can keep these three things in mind. Okay, so you will get the hazard related to these requirements. Then the 8.5.1.2 characteristics of raw materials, ingredients, and product contact material. So if you are getting any raw product, like you have to identify their characteristics, what are the ingredients or product contact materials. So all these things you have to identify. So organization shall ensure all applicable statutory and regulatory or the customer related requirements whenever you are identifying or whenever you are buying any raw material, ingredients, and product contact materials. The organization shall maintain documented information concerning all raw material, ingredients, and product contact materials to the extent needed to the conduct the hazard analysis. And it should include the biological, chemical, physical characteristics of the product, and let's say that characteristic of the raw material, how you will prepare a document. So you have to prepare documents, the characteristics you have to identify. It is mainly need to be done by the chef who's doing who's using the food product. Let's say that one of the characteristics of the food product that I'm using is for the tomato. So I'm purchasing a tomato. How the tomato you define the characteristic? The tomato should be red. It should be it shouldn't be very small, it shouldn't be very big, it should be in a limited amount, like 50 gram or 40 or 50 gram weight of the tomato. It should be red. It should not contain any hazard. So all these are contain the characteristics of the raw material. Then the composition of formulated ingredients, including additives or the processing aids. So if there is any additives is there in the product or not, that need to be checked. Source, how you are sourcing those products from the animal, from the farm, place of origin, provenance. Maybe that product should come only from the certain countries, should not come from the different countries. Method of production, how it is harvested, how it is produced. Method of packaging and deliver. Storage condition, what is the shelf life, preparation or handling before use or processing. So all these things you have to include in the product characteristics. Okay, so that you have to put in the material, ingredients, product contact materials. So all these things need to be included in the characteristics of the product. Now that is the characteristics of the raw material. Now the characteristics of the end products. So my company is producing a water bottle, packed water bottle. Okay, so 500 ml. So in that one, I'll give you the example. So the standard saying that the organization shall ensure that all applicable statutory legal requirements, food safety requirements are identified for all end products intended to be produced. Okay. Then the organization shall maintain documented information. Document should be there concerning the characteristics of end products to the extent needed to conduct the hazard analysis, including the information on the following as appropriate. Okay, so whenever I am preparing a product, let's say that my product is a water bottle 500 ml. So I have to create a documents. Okay, I have to create one of the document. The name of the document will be the characteristics of end products. In that characteristics of end products, I can group the product. Like if I have the let's say that I'm manufacturing three different size of water bottle, 500 ml, 100 so 100 ml, 500 ml, 1 liter, 2 liter, 3 liter. So 100 ml I will group, 500 ml I can group. Okay, 2 liter, 5 liter I will group. So group wise I have to make sure that all these product has minimum these requirements. Okay, product name or similar identification should be there for each product. Composition, how it is composed. Okay, biological, chemical, physical characteristics relevant to the food safety. What is the biological, chemical, or physical characteristics of that particular product, water bottle? Okay, intended shelf life and storage condition. What is the shelf life? 1 year, 2 year? Where I have to store? Room temperature or inside the chiller? Packaging. What is the packaging? Water bottle, plastic. Okay, labeling related to food safety. If is there any requirement related to the labeling, because each and every government in every country has the labeling requirements. Okay, there are some language requirement in like in UAE, each and every product should have two different language, English and the Arabic. Arabic is the local language, okay, and the English is the international language for the different people. So in that way you have to use it, and that should have the preparation, intended use, who can use that one, who cannot use that one, instruction of handling, instruction of use that one, what you call then the ingredients of the product. Okay, so methods of distribution, how it need to be distributed, how it need to be delivered. So all these things need to be included in the characteristics of end product. Okay. Now the intended use, when we are saying the intended use, so who's going to use that product? So the intended use including reasonably expected handling of end product, any unintended use but reasonably expected mishandling or misuse of end product shall be considered. So you have to check that is there any possibility that if the person will use that product misuse, or they will mishandle that product. If they will misuse or mishandle product, what can go wrong? So that information you have to put in the labeling, that do not misuse in this way can cause this hazard. So that way you have to put also. Now the next requirement is the followed flow diagram and the description of the process. So you have to prepare a flow diagram of the preparation of the flow diagram. The food safety team shall establish, maintain updated flow diagrams of documented information for the products or product categories and the process covered by the food safety management system. So you have to prepare a flow diagram for your organization. Let's say that I'm preparing a what you call chicken. So the chicken, for I have to prepare a flow diagram. So what is the flow diagram for the preparing the chicken? First, purchasing. Okay, purchasing, then receiving. Okay, after then receiving, what kind of product I'm going to receive, frozen or chilled product. If it is frozen, then it will go to the freezer storage. If it is chilled, it will go to the chiller storage. After then, if it is frozen, it will go to the defrosting. If I will defrost, how long I need to defrost? If it is chiller, directly it will go to the cutting preparation. Then after frozen, after defrosted, it will go to the preparation. So the preparation, after the preparation, maybe it will go to the marination. Okay, if it is not going to the marination, it will directly go to the cooking. After the cooking, if you are going to directly serve to the customer a la carte, or you're going to hold to the buffet. After the cooking, maybe it will go to the a la carte, directly serving to the customer, or maybe it will go to the buffet. After the buffet, what will happen? It will go to the customer. So in this way, for each and every product, you have to keep the process flow diagram. So the process flow diagram shall be clear, accurate, and sufficiently detailed to the extent needed to conduct hazard analysis. Flow diagram shall, as appropriate, include the following: sequence, interactions, the steps in the operation, outsourced processed, where raw material, ingredients, processing aids, packaging materials, utilities, and intermediate products enter the flow, where reworking or recycling take place. So that also need to be included, and intermediate products, byproducts, and waste are released or removed. So that also need to be included in the process flow diagram. On-site confirmation of flow diagram. So if once you create the process flow diagram, that need to be on-site confirmation and need to be signed by the food safety team members. Okay, and you have to physically take the process flow diagram and you have to run the process. You have to walk in the facility and you have to check the process. Clause number 8.5.1.5.3, description of the process and process environment. So the food safety team shall describe the extent needed to conduct the hazard analysis, the layout of the premises, including food, non-food handling areas. Okay, so you have to create the food diagram also, like the process flow. You have to create a diagram or the chart also for the complete facility, where you have to identify the non-food handling areas, food handling areas, the layout you have to prepare of the premises. Processing equipment and contact material processing aids of the flow of materials, that also you have to process, keep in the process and the process environment. Existing PRPs, process parameters, control measures, and strictness with which they are applied. External requirements also that can impact the choice and restriction of the control measures, that also you have to identify. Then you have to do the hazard analysis. So 8.5.2, it's about the hazard analysis, hazard identification and determination of acceptable level. So it is the requirement that the organization shall identify and document all food safety hazard. You have to identify and you have to document. And whenever you are identifying any food safety hazard, you have to identification need to be done on the preliminary information and data collection in accordance with 8.5.1. You can check the previous data, the experience, internal and external information, including the extent possible epidemiological, scientific, and or other historical data, information from food chain or food safety hazard related to the safety of the end products. Statutory, legal, or customer related requirements also need to consider whenever you are doing any hazard identification. Okay. 8.5.2.2.2, the organization shall identify a step, okay, reviewing raw material, processing, distribution, and delivery at which each food safety hazard can be present. So, whenever you are identifying the doing the identification of the food safety hazard, so each and every step you have to check that whether the food safety hazard can be introduced at this level or not. So in that way, you have to identify the hazard. So when you are identifying the food safety hazard, consider the stages preceding the following in the food chain, all steps in the flow diagram, the process equipment, utilities, services, processes, environment, and persons. So it's saying that the organization shall determine the acceptable level and the end product of each food safety identification whenever possible. And whenever you are identifying the acceptable level, consider ensure that applicable legal requirement. Okay, maybe there is a legal requirement that all foods should be cooked at 75 degrees Celsius. Consider the intended end product. Okay, who's going to use the end product? Maybe the babies, maybe the old person, maybe the young person. So that need to consider. Consider any other relevant information also whenever you are identifying the acceptable level of the hazard. Then you have to assess the hazard. Okay, hazard assessment need to be done, the likelihood, the severity, consequences, so all these things you have to identify, okay, in the hazard assessment. Selection and categorization of control measures. So once you do the hazard assessment, you identify those hazards, consequences, likelihood, then you have to select and categorize the control measure. So when you are selecting the or the categorizing control measure, you have to consider the likelihood of failure of its functioning of the control measure, the severity of the consequences in the case of failure of its functioning. If any control measure will like not work, what could be the consequences? So in that way, you have to select the control measure. In addition, for each control measure, the systematic approach shall include an assessment of the feasibility of established measurable critical limits, measurable observable action criteria, monitor to detect any failure to remain with a critical limit, or measurable, observable, and applying timely correction case of failure. So these things you have to consider. Then validation of control measures and combination of control measures. So the control measures need to be validated also. So how you going to validate? You could be validated by using the third party testing laboratory. Like let's say that your food is cooked in 75 degrees Celsius. If the food is cooked in 75 degrees Celsius, there should not be any bacteria in that food. So how you going to make sure that there is no bacteria? So do the lab testing, food testing to the external lab. So in that there they will check the food and they will see that whether there is bacteria present in the food or not. So in that way, you can validate your product. Now the hazard control plan, HACCP OPRP plan. So the hazard control plan will include the HACCP or the OPRP plan. In general, it will include the CCP and OPRP. So the food safety hazard to be controlled at the CCP or by the OPRP. Critical limit at CCP or action criteria for the OPRP need to be included. Monitoring procedure, how you going to monitor that SOP, CCP and the OPRP. Correction to be made, critical limits or action criteria are not met. What are the correction you will take if CCP or OPRP are not met? Responsibility, who is the responsible or the authority? Records of monitoring, how you going to monitor that one? That record also need to be maintained. 8.5.4.2 is talk about the determination of critical limits and action criteria. So critical limits at CCPs and action criteria for OPRPs shall be specified. So critical limit will be there for the CCPs and action criteria for will be there for OPRP. So both the things are different. Okay. The rationale for their determination shall be maintained as documented information. Critical limits at CCP shall be measurable. Conference with critical limits shall ensure that the acceptable level is not exceeded. Action criteria for OPRP shall be measurable or observable. Conformance with the action criteria shall contribute to the assurance that the acceptable level is not exceeded. Okay, so the action criteria for the OPRP should be measurable and observable also. Now the monitoring system at CCP and OPRP, how you going to monitor that one? So you have to define the monitoring system also. At each CCP, a monitoring system shall be established for each control measure or combination of control measures to detect any failure or remain within the critical limits. The system shall include all scheduled measurable relatives to the critical limits. So for each CCP, monitoring system should be there. For each OPRP, monitoring system should be there. So the monitoring system at each CCP and OPRP shall consist of documented information. Okay, documented information should be there if you have the monitoring system for the CCP and OPRP. Measurements or observation that provides results within an adequate time frame. Let's say that monitoring system is the how you're going to monitor. You are monitoring the cooking temperature by using thermometer. So that is your monitoring system for the CCP. Monitoring methods or device used using thermometer. Applicable calibration methods, how you are using how you are doing the calibration, internal or external calibration. If you do the internal calibration, how you do, you use the ice or you use the hot temperature, hot water. Monitoring frequency, how frequently you will monitor after each cooking. Monitoring results, what is the monitoring results, responsibility and authority related to the monitoring, and the responsibility and authority related to the evaluation of monitoring results. So all these things you have to consider in the monitoring system for the CCP and OPRP. Now the actions when critical limits or action criteria are not met. So you have to include in your food safety management system that if the critical limits or action criteria for the OPRP are not met, what you will do. The potentially unsafe products are not released. You have to make sure that if the critical limits are not met, you will not release the product. That is a requirement. The cause of non-conformity is identify. You have to identify the non-conformity. What is the cause? The parameters control at the CCP or the OPRP are written within the critical limits or the criteria. Let's say that 75 degrees Celsius is the cooking temperature critical limits for the CCP, but while you checking the product, it is only 70 degrees Celsius. What is the action you will take? You will cook more time until the product will come to the 75 degrees Celsius. So that is the corrective action. So recurrence is prevented. Like let's say that why this time the product is didn't cook at 75 degrees Celsius. Maybe the person didn't defrost the chicken properly, and it taking the more time now. So now you have to go back to the defrosting process, and you have to defrost the chicken properly to make sure that the product will get cooked easily and within the time frame. So in that way you have to implement the actions when critical limits or the action criteria is not met. After that, you have to implement the hazard control plan. Now the hazard control plan is ready. Now you have to implement that one. So you have to implement and maintain the hazard control plan, and you have to retain as evidence of documented information. Updating information is specifying to the PRPs and the hazard control plan. So these information need to be update PRP related and the hazard control plan. Okay, the following establishment hazard control plan, the organization shall update the following information. So you have to make sure that these information are updated. Characteristics of raw material, ingredients, product contact materials, characteristics of end products, intended use, flow diagram, all these things need to be update and need to review. After that, control of monitoring and measuring. How you will control the monitor and measuring. The monitoring and measuring equipment shall be used, shall be calibrated, okay, or verified at specific intervals prior to use, adjusted or readjusted as necessary, and identified to enable the calibration status to be determined. These are safeguards from adjustments that would invalidate the measurement results. protect from the damage or deterioration. So these are the things, control measures that you have to control for the measuring devices. The results of calibration and verification shall be retained as documented information. So whenever you do the calibration or the verification, you have to maintain as a documented information. Then the verification related to the PRPs and the hazard control plan. You have to verify that your PRPs and the hazard control plans are still effective. So how you gonna verify? The verification activities shall confirm that PRPs are implemented effective, the hazard control plan is implemented is effective, hazard levels are within the identified acceptable levels, then the input to the hazard analysis is updated, and other actions determined by the organizations are implemented and effective. So in this way, you have to make sure that your PRPs and hazard control plans are effective. So you have to check that one. So the purpose, methods, frequencies, and responsibility for the verification need to be checked. So verification results shall be retained as documented information. So where verification is based on testing of end product samples or direct process samples, and where such test samples show non-conformities with the acceptable level of the food safety hazard, the organization shall handle the affected lots of product potentially unsafe and apply corrective actions in accordance with the requirement 8.9.3. After that, we have the analysis results of verification. Once the verification is done and you got the result, that result need to be analysis. If there is any action need to be taken, you have to take the action. Now, control of products and process of non-conformities. So, how you will control the non-conformity product and processes? Correction. The organization shall ensure that whenever there is a critical limit or the action criteria or OPRPs are not met, the product affected or identified, you have to make sure that a method of identification, assessment, and correction for affected products to ensure their proper handling and arrangements for review for the corrective actions are carried out. When critical limits at CCP are not met, affected products shall be identified and handled as potentially unsafe product. So, where action criteria for an OPRP are not met, the following thing you need to carry out. Determine the consequences of the failure, why that action criteria not met. Determine the cause of failure, identification of affected products and handling in accordance with. Then the documented information shall be retained and describe corrections made of non-conformities product and process including. Then the nature of the non-conformity product, the cause of the failure, the consequences as a result of non-conformity. So that you have to check. After that, you have the corrective actions. So you have to take the corrective actions if the CCP is not met or the OPRPs are not met. So you have to define that how you're going to take the corrective actions in the as a documented information. Okay. So in this way, you have to do this one. So reviewing non-conformities identified by the customers and consumers complaints and all these things, regulatory requirements and review trends and monitoring results that can indicate loss of controls. So all these things you have to identify. After that, what you have to do is you have to make sure that how you will handle the potentially unsafe products. Now you have identified the unsafe products. Now how you gonna handle those unsafe products? So it is required that the organization shall take actions to prevent potentially unsafe products from entering the food chain unless it can demonstrate that. So until unless you will not sure or you won't be able to show that the food safety hazard of concern is reduced to the defined acceptable levels, you are not allowed to include the potentially unsafe products inside the food chain. So you have to show this one. Then the food safety hazards of concerns will be reduced to identified acceptable levels prior to entering the food chain that you have to consider. Then the product still meets the defined acceptable levels of food safety hazard concern despite the non-conformity. So you decide that the whether still it is non-conformity product, but it is achieving the acceptable level of the food hazard. So if you are able to show all these things, so in that way you can handle the potentially unsafe products. So, as a organization, you have to retain products that have been identified as potentially unsafe product. It's control until the products have been evaluated and disposition has been determined. So, once you identify the non-conformity product, you have to segregate those products in separate areas, and you have to make sure that these products are not getting mixed with the normal products. So, this is the requirements. Then the evaluation for release. Each lot of products affected by the non-conformity shall be evaluated. So any product is getting what you call affected, and it is non-conform product, then those each product need to be evaluated. Then the products affected by failure to remain with critical limits. If any product is not comply with the critical limits, shall not be released, but shall be handled accordance with the 8.9.4.3 clause. Then the products affected by failure to meet the action criteria for the OPRP shall be released as safe when only the following condition and as applied. Your OPRPs are not met the action criteria, but still you want to use them. Yes, you can use them, but only if they are meeting these criteria. Like the evidence other than monitoring system demonstrate that the control measures have been effective. Evidence show that the combined effect of the control measures for that particular products conforms to the performance intended. The results of sampling analysis and other verification activities demonstrate that the affected product confirm the identified acceptable levels for the food safety hazard concern. So if these things are considered, yes, you can release this product. Now the disposition of non-conforming product. Once you identify the non-conforming product, now you decide that you want to dispose them. So when you are disposing these products, you have to take care also few things. First of all, reprocessed or further processed within or outside the organization to ensure that the food safety hazard is reduced to an acceptable level. Okay. Then redirected for other use as long as food safety in the food chain is not affected, that you can do. Destroyed and disposed as waste. So these are the three options that you have if you want to disposition of non-conforming product. These are the three options that you can do. You can dispose as a waste, you can reprocess or redirect it for other as long as food safety in the food chain is not affected. Now the withdrawal or recall. Now you identify that one of your product is contaminated with the glass or the physical or the biological or the allergen. Now you want to recall or you want to withdraw that product from the market. So the organization shall be able to ensure the timely withdrawal recall lots of end products that have been identified as potentially unsafe by appointing competent persons having the authority to initiate and carry out the withdrawal recall. So you should have the SOP or you should have the process of withdrawal or recall, and all these parties should be included in this one, and your all the customer information should be there with their name, number, and whom you want to contact, how you want to contact in case of emergency of the withdrawal or recall, as you have to contact them. Then the organization shall establish and maintain documented information for these things. So documented information when you are maintaining, notifying relevant interested parties, statutory regulatory authorities, you have to inform them, okay, why you want to recall, handling withdrawal recall products as well as product still in stock, and the performing the sequence of actions to be taken. So the withdrawal or recall products and product still in stock shall be secured or held under control. So these product, whatever you withdraw or you recall, they should be secured and keep in a designated areas and should not be mixed with the other person, and only the designated person should allow to use that particular area. So the cause, extent, and result of withdrawal recall shall be retained as a documented information. Why did you recall? What is the reason? All these things should as maintain as a documented information, and you have to make sure that you did the investigation for that recall issue. So that was the clause number 8 for the operation. All these things you have to do as under the food safety management system, HACCP, OPRP, and PRP. Now the clause number 9 is performance evaluations. So once you've done all these things, sorry, you have to check your performance. So how you will check the performance? By monitoring, measuring, analyze, and evaluation that you have to do. So the organization shall, it is the requirement that determine what needs to be monitored and measured. So you have to create a SOP for the performance evaluation. So in that one, you have to include these things: what you will monitor and what you will measure, how you will monitor, measure, analyze, and evaluate, applicable to ensure valid results, when or you will monitor or measure shall be performed, when the results from monitoring and measurement shall be analyzed and evaluated, the time frame, and responsibility, who is responsible to doing this. And the organization shall shall retain appropriate documented information as evidence of the results. So you have to maintain as a documented information. Now 9.1.2, analysis and evaluation that you have to do. So it is the requirement that shall analyze and evaluate appropriate data information arising from monitoring and measuring. So the analysis shall be carried out to confirm that the overall performance of the system meets the plan arrangements and the food safety management system requirement, identify the need or updating of the FSMS, and identify trends which indicate higher incidents, establish information of planning the internal audit program related to the status and importance of the areas to be audited, and to provide evidence that the corrective and the corrections and corrective actions are effective. Now 9.2, internal audit. So I would suggest you to create a SOP for your organizations, which is included the audit related information, inspection, and the monitoring evaluation related information in that SOP. So internal audit, it is saying that the organization shall conduct the internal audits plan intervals. In that SOP, you have to define that how frequently you will conduct the food safety management system related audit, annually, every 6 months, every 3 months, that you have to determine. So why you have to do that? To confirm the organization meet with the on requirements for the food safety management system, requirements for this document, and is effective implemented and maintain the food safety management system. Sorry. So it is the requirement that the organization shall plan, establish, implement, and maintain an audit program. So the SOP will uh, include all these requirements, including the frequency, method, how you're going to use, who is the responsible, planning of the audit, reporting, how you're going to report, and who is the responsible, changes in the food safety management system, monitoring, measurement, previous audit report. All these things need to be included in the audit program, and the audit criteria for the each audit and the scope of the audit. Select competent auditors, how you're going to select the auditors, who's going to the auditor, and how you're going to check whether they are competent or not. All these things you have to check. Ensure that the results of the audits are reported in the food safety team and the relevant management system, and the retain as a documented information of the audit and the SOP of the internal audit, or how you're going to use that, and then make the necessary correction and take the necessary corrective actions within the agreed time frame, and determine if the food safety management system meets the intended food safety policy and the objectives of the food safety management system. So in this way, you have to make sure that your internal audit program is meeting all these requirements. Then you have the management review meeting. So you have to make sure that you are conducting a management review meeting every year. The management review shall consider. So whenever you are doing a management review meeting, these are the agendas should include in the management review meeting. So what I would suggest you that just copy all these one A, B, C, D, all will come there after this one till here G. Okay, till here G, all these things just copy and paste in the meeting minutes in the agenda where you have to discuss all these things. So if you will miss any one of these point and the auditor find out that these things were not included in the minutes of meeting, then you might receive a non-conformity. To avoid that thing, you can copy and paste in the minutes of meeting agenda. You may include other related requirements also, but these are the minimum requirements you have to include. So the management review meeting, you have to discuss the status actions from the previous management review meeting, changes in internal and external issues, Information on the performance of the food safety management system. So in this one, you have to discuss about the system updating activities, monitoring measurement results, analysis results of verification, PRP. So PRP has a control plan, non-conformity, NCR corrective action, audit, internal and external regulatory inspections, the performance of external providers, review of risk and opportunities, and the objectives of the food safety management system have been met or not. Then the adequacy of the resources, whether we need more resources to meet the food safety related requirements, the emergency situation, incident, withdrawal, recall, relevant information obtained through the external and the internal communications, including requests, complaints, and interested parties, and the opportunities for continual improvements. So all these things that we have to maintain. Now, the management review output, all these things you will include as an input. While including these input that you will discuss in the management review meeting, what is the output come from this meeting? So those things will consider as output, and you have to make sure that these output shall include the decisions and the actions related to the continual improvements and the opportunities. Okay, how you going to do the continual improvement, the need and update for the changes in the food safety management system, including resource needs and revision of the food safety policy, objectives of the food safety management system. So all these things will consider as output, and that things need to be communicated also, and it should be a documented information. So that was the clause number 9. Now let's move to the clause number 10. So the clause number 10, it's about the improvement. So the non-conformity and corrective actions. So when a non-conformity occurs, the organization shall react to the non-conformity as applicable, take action, control, and correctives. So the non-conformity should be correct and deal with the consequences. Whatever the consequences is there, so you have to deal with that. Then you have to evaluate the need for actions to eliminate the cause of the nonconformity in order that does not reoccur or occur elsewhere by reviewing the nonconformity, determine the cause of the nonconformity, determining the similar nonconformity exists or could potentially occur elsewhere in the process. So in this way, you have to review them. Then implement any action you needed to correct that the nonconformity. You have to review the effectiveness of these corrective actions regarding the non-conformity, maybe regularly during the inspection, audit, every 3 months, every 6 months, or yearly. You have to review that, and you have to make changes to the food safety management system if it is necessary. Corrective action shall be appropriate to the effects of non-conformities encountered. So whenever you are taking the corrective action, that should be appropriate to make sure that non-conformity will not uh, come again, or it should not encountered elsewhere. 10.1.2, the organization shall retain documented information. So when you are taking the corrective action regarding to the non-conformity, so you have to maintain as a documented information. In that documented information, the nature of the non-conformity and subsequent actions, whatever you took, and the results of any corrective action that you taken. Now, clause number 10.2, it's talk about the continual improvement. The organization shall continually improve the suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness of the food safety management system. So, how you will do the continual improvement, that you have to include in the food safety management system, okay, manual. In that, you can include that top management shall ensure that the organization continually, ABC organization will continually improve the effectiveness of the food safety management system through the use of communication, okay, management review, internal audit, analysis of result of verification activities, validation of control measures and combinations of control measures, corrective actions, and the food safety management system updating. Okay, so in this way you can maintain the continual improvement. Now, clause number 10.3, update of the food safety management system. So food safety management system need to be reviewed periodically, so you can decide that one, and it need to be ensured that the food safety management system achieve this food safety to the planned intervals, and the team shall consider whether it is necessary to review the hazard analysis, establish hazard control plan, and establish the FSMS. And whenever you are updating the food safety management system, it shall be based on the input from the communication, external and internal communication, input from the other information concerning the suitability, adequacy of the effectiveness of the food safety management system, and output from analysis results of verification activities. and output from that you will get from the management system review. So all these things need to consider whenever you are updating your food safety management system. And system updating activities shall be retained as documented information. So whenever you are updating your food safety management system, you have to maintain as a documented information. How you will maintain that documented information? In your food safety manual, that one page you can um, uh, insert as a history, document change history. In that document change history, you can mention when it is updated, why it is updated, what are the sections has been updated in food safety management system, so that you can include that in your food safety management system manual. So in this way you can comply with the requirement. So that's all from my side regarding the ISO 20000 2018. I hope you like this video and the information which I provide. If I have missed any information that you want to know, please comment in the comment section in this video and I'll provide you that information. And before saying the goodbye, so please do not forget to subscribe the channel, like the video and share my video also. And please give a thumb and like in this video. So see you in the next video. Thank you so much.